Hey, this is Montel Williams, and you're watching Bring the Pain Sports. Whew.
Performance, we understand that once again wasn't a very, acceptable performance, not acceptable at all. And nobody's more frustrated than we are in this building, coaches and players alike. I really do believe that there are many things that we have to coach better. The players know that they have to play better. We're going to work very hard to put together a better game plan for the Tennessee game, and we're counting on our fans. We're back home here, a divisional opponent, and so we have great fans here in Houston, and we're looking forward to playing in front of those fans on Sunday. As I talked about yesterday after the game, we're dealing with Ryan Mallett and that situation internally, Rick Smith and I, and so I won't have any comments regarding that at this point. And then Arian Foster will undergo an MRI, I believe, today. Might be at it right now. I know he's hurting. He worked hard to come back for this season, had the groin injury, and now this injury. And he's a guy that's proven he can come back from injury, and I'm sure once he's able to rehab it, he'll rehab it very diligently and try to come back. So we're all supportive of him in that rehab. With that, I'll open it to questions.
In terms of the slow starts, and obviously if you could get a handle on them, you would. What do you think has been kind of the key things in those slow starts?
Yesterday I would say it was a combination of a lot of missed tackles, not being able to run the ball effectively at all, had some drops, had some protection issues here and there. I thought one of the bright spots, which is not a very bright spot when you think about it as it relates to offense, but I thought we did punt the ball well. We played well on special teams, but again, that's not really something you're looking for in the beginning of these games. So defensively, we have to tackle better, we have to communicate better, and then offensively, we have to try to run the ball better, and we have to catch passes. We got to, and all of that has to come under the umbrella of coaching. We got to coach all those things better.
Bill, you said you and Rick are handling that internally. You brought it up. What does that mean?
We're talking about it.
What are your options?
We're talking about all those options.
Well, two things, but real quick on that. So 48 hours after he missed the flight, you still haven't decided what to do yet?
Right.
Okay. You talk a lot about having a smart team and smart players. You guys early on have looked confused in some games. Are you trying to do too much, or is your team not as smart as you would like it to be?
No, I think we have a smart team. We have smart players. I think there's some things we definitely have to get communicated quicker and faster into the game. I think sometimes from the sideline, whether it's me to George or defensively rack into the defense, I think sometimes we're a little late in getting the call in, and that causes some of what you're talking about. We have smart players. We have guys that are intelligent guys that have played a lot of football in this league, and we have to do a better job of coaching and communicating with them.
As far as what you know about Arian right now, do you expect him to be out the rest of the season?
Yes.
In terms of some of the things with the defense, tackling, how tough is it to simulate that, what happens in a game, to do some things in practice to try to upgrade it?
Yeah, that's not it's not easy, especially with the rules the way they are. You're only allowed one padded practice per week right now. So, we'll work it. We've got to work, especially the open field tackling. Obviously that was an issue yesterday. So, but we'll definitely work to try to get that improved.
Bill, when you're looking for answers, have you changed anything about the way you've approached everything? Because you're always saying it starts with me. Have you changed anything that you've done with the players to try to avoid this?
Well, we're week to week on those things, John. Depending on who we're playing. Last week we approached the Miami game a little bit differently than we had the week before, and the Jacksonville game, just because of the opponent. So, I think we change quite a bit. I think we look at our opponent, we try to determine what's important to win the game for our players, the keys to victory in all three phases, and that's what we'll do for Tennessee. So, but as far as that approach hasn't changed. It's a game plan approach. Every opponent's different, every week's different, and I don't believe that I've changed the way I approach. I believe in this team. I know doesn't look good right now. Believe me, I get it, but I believe in these guys, and we're in it together. we realize that not many people believe in us, but all that matters is that we get this thing turned around with good practices this week and go out there and win the game against Tennessee.
With Arian's situation being what it is, can you address your running back situation? What's your plans?
Yeah, I'd say that's something that we're talking about too, Rick and I, is how to address that. Right now, we've got Alfred Blue, Chris Polk, and J.L. Grimes, and then Jay Prosh at the fullback position. There's other guys on our roster that have played running back before, so we may even do some of that. But right now we're still talking about that as we sit here on Monday.
What have you thought about how the three of those guys have performed so far, your other running backs?
I think it's been decent. I don't think I don't think anybody in the game yesterday or when you're 2-5, I don't think anybody's, performed great. Obviously, as I always say, starting with me. But, I think that those guys have shown some flashes. Alfred's had one game where he rushed for over 120 yards, and I think he ran better in practice last week. He was a little bit banged up coming off the previous game, and I think he's back to being healthy. Grimes is a solid player for us. Polk, I think, has done some good things for us this year. So those guys will be used in different roles, but I'm sure they'll all step up and try to do their best.
Bill, in terms of talking with Bob McNair, what's it like, the conversations with him these days? Obviously, like everybody, he's disappointed about the way the season's going.
I'm not going to really get into the discussions that I had with Mr. McNair. Nobody's happy with where we're at. He's the owner. He's the boss. He's not happy, and that's the way it is. I mean, that's life in the NFL. So, but I'm not going to get into the details of what he and I talk about.
Yesterday, you said the play on the field is a reflection of the coaches, and you took a lot of the blame. We asked the players about that, and a couple things. J.J. Watt said there isn't a single person in that locker room didn't deserve some of the blame. It's not just on the coaches. And Hoyer said that the players have to take ownership of what happened. Some thoughts about that?
Well, I think, look, we've got good guys, but I think that when you go out there and you play like that I think that you feel like you approach these games and you have a good game plan, and you feel like you've coached it up during the week well, and you've had good practices, and then you go out there and it doesn't end up turning out that way at all. You've got to look in the mirror. And any coach worth his salt is not a finger pointer. And to me, you're pointing that finger at the guy in the mirror, and you've got to figure out what you can do to improve the football team, because that's your job. That's coaching. Coaching is getting guys to improve, getting guys to play the game the way that you see the game should be played in all three phases. And I think if we can do that and keep coming together on that, then there's a lot of season left. I understand what the record is, but I also know we've only played 2 games in the division, and there's a lot of season left. So we've got to all work to get better.
Bill, when you talk about coaching better, you said that a few times. We've got to coach better. You've got to look at you've got to look in the mirror. It starts with you. What does that look like? And when you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see? I mean, how do you do that?
A guy that's overweight and got a big hole in his chin. But other than that, I would say a guy that like I said, that needs to work very hard to get better. To figure out what we can do to improve. We can't keep doing the same things. So we have to change up some things. Maybe we change up some things in practice. Maybe we change up some players in the lineup, move them in different spots and things like that. Maybe we try to use players in different positions than what they're playing right now. Maybe we change some of the plays that we're calling. Maybe we try to do some things that are different than what we've been doing. So whatever it is, we've got to figure it out, because we can't keep traveling down this road of up and down and mostly down. And that's what we've been. It's 2-5, so we've got to figure it out.
Bill, is there a fine line of making those changes all the time versus making too many changes and not having the consistency that you're trying to look for?
Sure. You've got to stay with what your foundation is. And, our foundation here is to make sure that we stop the run on defense, and that we try to establish the run on offense, and that we play field position football and special teams. We haven't been able to do that consistently enough. That foundation hasn't changed. We've got to try to stop the run better. We've got to try to run the ball better. And we've got to also do a better job on special teams. Although yesterday I thought our special teams actually played pretty well. Kickoff return had a good return. Punt return had a 10-yard average, which is okay for us. And then our punt game was pretty good. But overall, the whole team has to be better in those areas.
What do you think happened with Hoyer getting off to such a bad start and then turning it around?
I guess you'd have to probably ask him that, John. I know that we came in at halftime, and obviously everybody was embarrassed by the first half, and nobody felt good about it. And I just brought him up and said, look, we've got to approach this second half like it's basically 0-0. We can't look at the scoreboard. Obviously, the game is in hand basically, but we've got to go out there and win the second half. And I think that's the approach he took, and we were able to go out there and do that. Obviously, we didn't win the game. That's not what I'm saying, but we were able to play a little bit better in the second half.
At least outwardly for us anyway, the most significant change you made procedurally was letting George be the offense coordinator and play caller. Have you considered going back to what was more successful for you last year?
No. I think that, George called a lot of the plays last year. He did. He was involved in a lot of that last year. Really, the procedure hasn't really changed that much. And so, like all of us, George can do better. I can do better. Rack can do better. We can all do better. But, we've all got to be in it together. And I don't think it's time for those types of changes. I think it's about sticking with what we're doing as far as that procedure. Who calls the plays, how the plays are communicated into the players, and then it's time for us to really, look at it, what we're doing. What are we doing, and try to figure out how we can do it better or do it differently. That's what we have to do over the next 48 hours here.
Is it harder to do that, though, when you change week to week to week, like you say, such a game plan team?
Yeah, in some ways we have to, we spend a lot of time studying the opponent because of that philosophy, and I think right now we've got to spend a lot of time over the next 36, 48 hours, spending a lot of time on us and seeing what we're doing. We've got to self-scout what we're doing. Obviously, the things that we're doing, especially yesterday, are not working. And so why aren't they working? Is it because they know what play's coming? Is it because we've had a tendency of running it out of this formation this many times? Or what is it? Are we not executing it properly? So I think we've got to spend a lot of time studying us.
Bill, some thoughts on the defensive side. Y'all gave up 4 big plays in the first half.
Yeah.
Jim, what your thoughts about what happened there, and how do you fix it?
Well, the slant route on the first touchdown, we're in press coverage, and the guy ran a good route, and we got to make the tackle. We didn't take very good angles, and the guy ended up outrunning us there, and we got to make the tackle. I think there was another play similar to that where the ball was caught on the sideline on a sail route, and we just didn't get the guy down. We didn't take great angles. So I think open field tackling in the running game, our run fits on the long runs were not very good. The screen that they ran in for a touchdown, they ran a fake reverse, faked an inside zone, and then threw the screen, and we were out of position on that. But then we couldn't make the tackle in the open field. So I think a lot of it has to do with open field tackling and making sure we're taking better angles.
Bill, any expectation that Bernardrick could be out of the protocol, and if Kareem could return from his sprained ankle?
I would say that Kareem will be out for a while, and I would say that Bernardrick will be checked out at some point this week. And to see if he could play against Tennessee. So I'd say that's a day-to-day.
Bill, are you?
Brooks felt like yesterday, he had a significant injury to his foot and that he couldn't go. So I would say that he should be able to go by Wednesday. So I think he'll be in the game this week.
Are you seeing any trends schematically that aren't working defensively?
Any trends schematically? I don't know if I'm going to get into all the schemes with you, Tanya. I would say that no, I don't really see where there's certain schemes that aren't working. I think it's more about making sure that you're doing your job, making sure that you're in the right position, making sure that you're fitting the right gap in the running game, making sure that you're keeping proper leverage and coverage, and making sure you tackle, making sure that you break down and tackle in the open field. I think it's those things more than it is the scheme.
Thank you.